Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's a match preview of West Ham United against Everton. And for 4 years, well, nearly 4 years, our concept from day one, our preview has always been the same. Myself, Gonzo, and another West Ham fan. We're changing up slightly tonight, but one thing I'm not changing is the very first question. Gonzo, what's your thoughts on Everton?
Everton, I thought they were going to spend big in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they have spent big. They've got a relatively new owner. I think Bill Kenwright is still involved in some way, but certainly a majority shareholder now. I still think they're lacking the centre forwards. I think that Lukaku has never really been replaced. I think when Big Sam came in, he sort of hoped that Tosin was going to be the new Messiah, so to speak. He's turned out to be a very naughty boy rather than the new Messiah. But I thought they bought well. Richarlison, I think Richarlison's a bit inconsistent, maybe, much like Felipe Anderson. But hey, that's why these guys cost 40, 50 million rather than the 200 million that Mbappe's about to go for, because they're probably about a quarter as good. But you know what? I think Silva's had a bit of stick this season, and perhaps too much stick, because if you listen to all the press, you think Everton have been absolutely shocking. You look at the league, they're doing all right.
Well, this is where it gets interesting and a slight change comes about because we've booted the West Ham fan off. Sorry, Charlie. I've got an Evertonian. You might recognise her from the reverse fixture. Sarah, what's your thoughts on your season so far?
Yeah, I've got to say, I pretty much think Gonzo's hit the nail on the head with everything he said there. About the Lukaku not ever being replaced. That's totally correct. I think that's exactly what we're missing, and we've missed so far this season. Is you're seeing we're not scoring goals, particularly from set pieces, corners, free kicks. The goals just haven't really been coming. Actually, we got one against Chelsea, funnily enough, but that ended an absolutely obscene record of corners gone without us scoring goals. So we really do need that big 20 goal a season striker to come in. It's frustrating because there's been spells where I feel we've got a few good, results together and strung a few positive performances together where we've played attractive football and the fans have kind of gone, oh, we can see what's developing here. This is exciting. But then in the next breath, the next game we're getting beat by a Newcastle or a Brighton, or so it's just been really frustrating in that sense. You don't know what Everton you're going to get. Are you going to get this Everton that's playing all this flary, attractive football, and you've got Bernard and Richarlison and Dean, tearing teams apart, or are we going to get rubbish? And it's like a guessing game. You never know what you're going to get.
A very similar story
Yeah.
to a West Ham fan this season, truth be told. Gonzo, should Everton be expecting more? It's all about the hunt for seventh, if you like. And we've been ourselves, Watford and Wolves, or tend to be the three that's in the race. Everton's a little bit behind, but they're not too far behind. But if you were an Everton fan, Gonzo, would you be expecting a bit more from your team?
Yes, I think so, but we're all guilty of that, though, aren't we? Every time we've had a chance to go seventh, for instance, and we've sort of fluffed our lines, we've felt that we should be up there because we've spent a lot of money. I think Wolves have perhaps spoilt the party a little bit for a number of clubs. I would suggest ourselves, Everton, for obvious reasons, Leicester. I think maybe we all thought we were going to be, battling it out to be the best of the rest, so to speak. But they are there, they are up there, and it does sound so familiar. That playing the big team, playing well against a big team, and then losing to a Brighton or a Newcastle. That is us all over. So until clubs like Everton, clubs like West Ham get that consistency, can get those top players and hold on to those top players, we're always going to be consistent and always going to be just short of the top lot.
Sarah, a lot of pressure on Marco Silva. When I first spoke to you last time, you were sort of reasonably confident he should be a manager and he needed time. He's had a bit of time now since we last spoke. What's your opinion of him now?
It changes, I mean, if you'd have asked me after the derby, I was pretty pleased with how he'd, handled that game. I think we deserved to maybe go on and nick that game. The game before that, a really good win away at Cardiff. But then we have that awful result against Newcastle in which we were in such a strong position, 2-0 up at half-time, having saved the penalty, and we lose the game 3-2. And you think the way in which we can capitulate in certain games is what worries me about Marco Silva. But then the next game again, Chelsea at home, we win 2-0 and it's a pretty, composed, strong, performance, and he managed that game well as well. So I just keep changing my mind on him. I really don't know. I think he's going to be certainly given at least till the end of the season. I'd like to. I just don't know if I feel like he is the right guy, but I certainly think he's got to be given a bit more time, maybe another summer in the transfer market as well, because you look at the players he brought in, and everybody talks about what an excellent man manager he is. So the likes of Luca Dean, he managed to bring in Bernard, Yerry Mina, Richarlison, and managed to get rid of a fair bit of Deadwood as well. So some things I think he's done really well, and other things, major concerns for him, and we've all heard that stat going around about the worst teams for records of conceding goals from set pieces, and they've been Marco Silva's Hull, Marco Silva's Watford, and Marco Silva's Everton. So these are the things that really leave that kind of doubt in the back of your mind, but we'll have to give him some more time and see what happens.
Gonzo, I'll ask you first, so you don't steal Sarah's answers. Who would you consider to be Everton's main players on Saturday, and who do you like the most?
I tell you who I did like was the fullback, the right back. I watched the under-21s. I've got it. Hold on. I've wrote it. John Joe Kenny. I watched him. He played for the under-21s. Played very, very well indeed. Thought he was decent. Mina was an interesting one. Possibly not fit for this game, but do you remember when England played Colombia in the World Cup? They were the dirtiest team I've ever seen in my life. We signed one, but Everton signed one as well, Mina, and he looked evil. He looked the personification of pure evil. He was the dirtiest player, and I thought that's someone who's going to fit in the Premier League. I thought he was going to be outstanding, one of the best centre backs. Keane, of course, has just played for England. Big signing from Burnley. I thought Bernard would do a little bit more, because we were linked with him as well, if you remember. I think Sigurdsson, I know you've always liked him, Jill. I've always found him, again, inconsistent, flatters to deceive a little bit. And then Richarlison, of course, is the big money signing, a 50 million signing. Full of talent, really good, and a big boy as well. He's a big boy, Richarlison, physically adept and ready to play in the Premier League. I'll tell you, there was one, though, and they spent 30 million on him, and I thought he was going to be brilliant, and I think he is a brilliant player. I don't know what happened. I guess a lot of injury. Was Yannick Bolasie, who's I still think is possibly the most skillful player at the club. It's just not really happened. Brilliant player though. If anyone could ever get him fit and get a tune out of him.
Sarah, what 2 or 3 players are sort of in form for Everton that we should be watching out for on Saturday?
I've got to say, I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to be honest with you, he's somebody that has split opinions for most of his career, to be honest with you, largely because he's such a young lad who's been thrown in to really replace the boots of Romelu Lukaku, which is such a thankless task. But I think when he's come in, he's done well, and he's had a run of games recently in the recent months where he's consistently been playing, he's notched a couple of goals, and he's been impacting the play in a really positive way. So I think Calvert-Lewin's someone to watch out for. Also, Bernard, he's just starting to come into his fitness. He's just starting to hit full fitness, and I think Bernard, he's going to be some player. He's starting to, the way he can manipulate teams, he's so fast. He loves a little back heel as well, and he'll cause all kinds of problems. Richarlison obviously is always a threat, and as Gonzo said as well, Gylfi Sigurdsson, when he's on his day, he can just pluck a goal out of nowhere. But yeah, I've got a sneaky feeling about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Yerry Mina as well. I agree with what you're saying. He's got a bit of tenacity. He's a big, strong centre-half, but unfortunately it looks like he's going to be injured for that fixture on Saturday. But yeah, fingers crossed for me anyway, Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
One thing concerns me about Calvert-Lewin for West Ham, which I'll talk about towards the very end. But Richarlison's the player I like from Everton. I've always liked him as soon as I've seen him. I've seen him against Chelsea as well. He played on the right wing, which I can't recall him playing much on the right wing before. It's always been the left, then he got shunted up front a little bit because you had no one else to play up there. Played on the right wing. I don't know if it's because Marcus Alonso is just bang out of form this season, and so if I targeted him and put Richarlison up against him, or was trying to find a place for Richarlison in his team, but it worked very well. Andre Gomez has always impressed me when I've seen Everton. I've always thought he has got that little bit of class about him, and if you can keep a hold of him, if you can get him in the summer permanently, then that'd be a massive signing for Everton, and it's a necessity. Bernard's a confusing one because whenever I watch his, I always find he's inconsistent in 90 minutes. I find it remarkable. For 15 minutes, he's running the game. Everything's going through him. then for the next 15 minutes, you might as well just go sit on the bench because I don't see him. He just disappears. But then he'll appear again. I think, well, where have you been? He just sums up Everton's season over 90 minutes, actually. I do think your weak spot is Seamus Coleman. I don't know what happened to him. He used to be one of the best right backs in the league. But whenever I watch him now, he's lost his mojo. He's gone through the Leighton Baines thing that he had, but you've now sorted that out by replacing him. And I just think Coleman should be the next one Everton needs to replace, actually, despite being the captain. But a team full of good players, and on your day, I think you should be seventh in the league, arguably, along with us and Leicester, Wolves, etc. You've got your claim to be seven. Had an okay season. I thought you'd have done better, in all honesty. I thought Everton would have had a better season than this. But before we talk about West Ham, if you'd like to join us for beer and a barbecue and some music before the game, you can get your tickets to our boats. The link is in the description. Kids go free, open from 1:30 in the afternoon and don't shut until 9:30 at night. So come along and have a drink with us. But let's talk about West Ham. The only team news is Samir Nasri is pretty much out. His calf injury is back, so he came on against Huddersfield, changed the game, and he's injured. So it sums up West Ham for you. Sarah, what do you make of West Ham? Not individual players, we'll get onto that, but as our season so far, what do you make of West Ham?
Again, like you said, it does seem quite similar to Everton's in a lot of ways. You know, one game, you don't know what you're going to get from West Ham, and recent results have even, confirmed that with the trip away to Cardiff, losing that game 2-0. You wouldn't have seen that with some of the big results West Ham had got previous to that. They seem to go on a bit of a run and then end up dropping points. Obviously, it was a huge and important win, and the way the comeback against Huddersfield was massive. And I've watched West Ham sometimes, and you play really attractive, nice, fast-paced, flary football. But it's like Everton, it's in bursts and spouts, and it's the inconsistency there. So I think it's going to be such an interesting game on Saturday for that reason, because both teams are capable of playing nice football. But who's going to turn up on the day? It's hard to tell because, as I say, we've both got good teams full of really talented players, but whether it's that individuals, they're not gelling entirely as a team, and you're relying on certain individuals to be on top of their game to have a good game. But yeah, West Ham, again, I thought actually West Ham and Everton would both be doing better than they are this season, given the management, the managers that have come in and the players that have been signed and stuff. So it's going to make for a really interesting game.
Indeed. Gonzo, let's talk about our team then. Let's talk about our starting 11. Nasri's obviously a big miss. We would both like to have seen him start. But Balbuena, would you like to see him come in, and who for, Diop or Ogbonna?
Yes, and bring him in for Ogbonna, mate.
Interesting, but Ogbonna, in my opinion, has been a better centre-back of the two than Diop. But the problem is Diop and Balbuena have the proven partnership. Is that why you're going with...
Yes, and also the fact that they are the future partnership as things look as well. So you might as well get them together. There's no experience together of Ogbonna and Balbuena playing together. And it was looking like we thought it was the end of the world when Balbuena got injured, of course, because the partnership was so good. We were looking at them saying it's hard to find a better pairing in the Premier League. We were looking at that. So you've got to rekindle that relationship, for want of a better word.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think we've got to have one eye on next season, and I don't know if Ogbonna is even going to be at the club next season. So we've got to start with the partnership that's going to be starting in August, and that will be Balbuena and Diop. So let's get them back in. Let's jump straight to the striker position. Both strikers, Arnautovic and Hernandez, scored on international duty. Which one would you like to see lead the line, Gonzo?
Hernandez, mate. Hernandez is gone. He's had his chance, Arnie, now. There's been 3 or 4 opportunities since he threw his toys out of his pram. And I think anything else, what we're going to do, we're happy with the 42 points and we're just trying to get Arnie's value up so as we can flog him on. Do you know what? I'd just rather play Hernandez and just try and get some enjoyment between now and the end of the season, because I just can't handle seeing the geezer hunched shoulders, sulking, walking around, throwing his arms in the air. No, thank you. Let's get Hernandez on there, a bit of fox in the box,
There's a point about Nasri, but is there any other changes you would like to see? Gonzo, I suppose the other one you might consider is a right back position.
Right back, I'd probably go for Zabaletta's experience, particularly if Richarlison does actually pull wide to the left. I don't want to see Fredericks up against him. I would play Antonio, and I'd play Felipe Anderson. Obviously, Noble's going to play in the middle with Declan Rice, Lanzini, and Chicharito, as discussed.
Yeah, my 11's exactly the same as yours, Gonzo. That's for our one. Sarah, what West Ham players are you sort of thieving the most on Saturday?
Arnautovic, I know obviously as well with what you're saying there as well, mate. I totally agree. There's nothing worse than when a player lets it known that he doesn't really want to be there anymore. You just think, well, just clear off then, and you'd rather give somebody else a chance. And it's not exactly like Hernandez is a bad replacement. He's been on fire as well recently. So whichever of those plays, clearly they're going to be a worry. Felipe Anderson as well. Mark Noble, I always feel like he's somebody who's just got a goal in him. He's just going to score an absolute screamer against Everton from sort of 40 yards out or something. So there's loads of danger players from West Ham, to be honest. And as well, you physical big centre-halves as well. We're very vulnerable from corners and set pieces as well. So, I'm always wary of Everton conceding goals. But I would say Anderson, Arnautovic and Hernandez are the main men that we're going to have to watch out for.
I can confirm, I think you're the first person I've ever heard say that you think Mark Noble's got a screamer in him. Saturday. If that happens this weekend, I will fully credit you with that prediction.
I said I called it all last time, didn't I? So if this happens now, I'm going to put a bet on.
I'll bet on everything. If this happens now, I'll bet on everything you say forever.
Yes, so will I. Gonzo, are you confident for this one?
No,
the most inconsistent teams in the Premier League going up against each other. Are you confident?
I am old and grumpy, and my memory is long. And I've been watching West Ham play Everton for many, many, many years since I've standing on a milk crate at the front and the North Bank, hearing other young kids swearing at Neville Southall, and then losing Tony Cottee to Everton. I've seen it all, and I'll tell you what, we just do not do well against Everton. That being said, it was our turning point this season. It made our season, the 3-1, but it was it was an isolated incident, I've got to say. And because of all those years of just getting beaten by Everton, I find it hard to be positive about it. And I do believe that Silva's got too much stick. I actually only believe there's one really good, outstanding manager in the Premier League, and I think that's Guardiola. As we've seen, the others just sort of dropped by the wayside. I think everybody else is just sort of battling to be up there or thereabouts, and people will say Pochettino and people like that, but he's never won a trophy. So I think Silva's a good manager. I think he was good at Watford. I think he got his head turned a little bit. I think he's good now. He was even good at Hull, but he took them down. He's got it in his locker, and they have enough talented players to frighten us. But I do also understand that you might look at West Ham with Anderson and Chicharito and Lanzini and feel that we pose a threat. Of course we do, but I'm not overly confident. Yeah.
Interesting. Sarah, what about yourself from an Everton's perspective? Are you confident for this one?
It's a really tricky one because I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. But on this occasion, I'm gonna go with Everton because I think Silva will be so desperate and the players will be so desperate to try and get back-to-back wins because I can't even remember the last time that happened. We've got really tough remaining home fixtures as well. We've still got to play like Man United, Arsenal, and the like. So I think if we want to try and get that 7th spot, then we've got to really get all 3 points on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm optimistic for this one, actually. I think we've been doing well at the London Stadium this year and recently as well. We've been doing well at home. It's our away form that's a concern, but we've got 3 games at home left this season. Everton, Leicester, Southampton. We have to be aiming for 7 points. Pellegrini's presser earlier today was going on about wanting to finish 7th, and we've got a few fixtures coming up against teams around us, etc. But we've heard it before. We've heard it before. Other games that we've then gone on to have a disappointing performance against, i.e. Cardiff. We didn't turn up for that. So he gave it all this about 7 before the Cardiff one. So I've sort of tuned myself out when he talks about 7. But we need to see something to keep us going for the rest of the season. Our season can't be finished now. It's still March. We can't just think, oh well, we'll pack up and we'll go home and we'll see you again in August type thing. So we need to see something. The only thing that concerns me, what concerns me the most about from a West Ham point about Everton is our high line we like to play. I do think Pickford is the best in the league at kicking the ball out of his hands. I've not seen a keeper be able to volley it like that in a long time. He can get distance, he can get accuracy. The ball travels at an alarmingly low height as well for his volleys. No defense, you can't reach it, you can't jump and head it, but it doesn't go that high in the air. It just sort of goes straight across the pitch, and he can get distance on his kicks. Okay, Richarlison, Calvin Lewin, they're fast. They're fast players. And if their idea is, especially from defending set pieces, as soon as a keeper gets the ball, just run, because Pickford will land it in halfway between the halfway line in our box, and we're playing our high line. And who stays back when we go up for corners? Zabaleta, the slowest player, possibly the slowest player on the pitch on Saturday, will be our last line of defense for defending a corner. That's my biggest concern. That's what I think is our weakness on Saturday coming up against this Everton side. But we've got enough in our locker to hurt Everton. It should be a good game. It's two sides that have a lot of attacking talent on the pitch. There's a lot of attacking players out there that we can all say that can make arguments why one or two of those players might be good enough for one or two of the top 6 clubs. Me and Gonzo can make arguments why one or two of our attacking players are good enough for some top 6 clubs as well. It's harder to do it for the defensive areas, such as both clubs. But anyway, the two inconsistent sides coming up against each other. Sarah's already hinted she's going for an away win on this one. Gonzo, I mean, Gonzo, can I get your score prediction? Does this have draw written all over it?
It does, and I'm going for your favourite, 2-2.
2-2. Sarah, I know you said an away win, but can I push you for a score prediction, please?
You can. I'm gonna go with my boys, and I'm gonna say 2-1, because I think again this is a real big opportunity for Everton to go and get that back-to-back wins. So 2-1.
Mark Noble to score and 2-1 Everton. Sorry, right? I've got for Saturday. I'm going to go for 2-1 West Ham. Actually, I don't know why. There's just a feel-good factor. It's okay. There's a feel-good factor around Declan Rice's debut for England. I'm hoping that sort of somehow gets us 3 points anyway. I'm going to go for 2-1 West Ham, 2-2 from Gonzo, and Sarah's go for 2-1 Everton. Sarah, if people want to hear more or see more from yourself, how can they do so?
Yeah, so I've got a YouTube channel, The Bird is Blue, Facebook page the same, and you can get me on the Everton Ladies coverage, Instagram, all of that, Twitter, Sarah Helping 9. You'll just see me popping up here and there.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. You guys at home, let us know in the comments below what you thought, and also what you thought of our slightly altered match preview. The first time we've had an opposition fan on. Gonzo, did you enjoy it?
Oh, very much so. And may I say, Sarah knew far more about West Ham than Charlie.
And she's better looking than Charlie as well. That's a bonus.
Aren't we all?
If you've enjoyed the video at home, drop a like on it. Subscribe if you're around here, and we will see you. Well, Gonzo will see you straight after the game on Saturday on this channel, and I'll do the video with Charlie, who doesn't know as much about West Ham as Sarah, on the Hammer Chat Forum channel. Thank you very much, and catch you in a bit.